Good evening. The regular board meeting for the Vallecitos Water District for September 18th, 2024 will come to order. Before we begin, I'd like to announce that members of the public may watch this meeting live via computer or smart device by going to the district's website and clicking on the Watch Live icon. However, they will not be able to participate in the meeting remotely. Members of the public may also listen to the meeting live on their phone by dialing 888-788-0099 toll-free or 877-853-5247, also toll-free. When prompted, enter the meeting ID and passcode displayed on the district's website. I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you're able. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next up is attendance. Please indicate your attendance, and we are all here. Thank you very much. Do we have any additions to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then may I have a motion to adopt the agenda for the meeting of September 18th, 2024?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Vice President Pinnock. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Elletharp. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. And it passes. Thank you for your votes. Do we have any public speakers?
No, ma'am. No public speakers.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to consent items. Anyone like to pull an item from the consent calendar as presented? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
Move to approve.
Okay, thank you, Director Hernandez. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by Vice President Pinnock. Thank you. Please vote. Great. Okay, the consent calendar has passed. Moving on to action items. Agenda item 2.1, construction contract award for the Tres Amigos Waterline Replacement Phase 1 project, award for a professional services agreement for construction management services, and award of contract amendments for construction phase services. Did you do that on purpose? Are you just like increasing the length? I'm joking. I know, it's specific. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And unfortunately, it's not the longest title that came from engineering to date, so we're keeping track of that in the words. So, while they get queued up, I'll just do a quick introduction. The board may recall that that the Tres Amigos pipeline has been notified many times of main breaks, and I don't know the specific numbers, and staff may actually eliminate that tonight. But there's another main break today that just happened maybe in the last hour or so. Yes, the last hour or so on the Tres Amigos pipeline. So this is a project that is overdue, and we've experienced a lot of main breaks on this project, and a lot of outages. The other portion of this project is that with this replacement of this project, basically we're getting rid of some of the oldest legacy pipe in the district that may be, the pipe itself may predate the existence of the district and was Casey inherited when the district was formed, or really close to that time frame. So with that, let me hand it over to Ryan Morgan, our engineer in charge of the project.
Thank you, General Manager Campbell and directors of the board. Good evening. It's a pleasure to present this item tonight. Really an overdue item. Very excited to present it tonight for award. As you mentioned, several actions are being presented tonight for the Tres Amigos Waterline Replacement Phase 1 improvements, which replace nearly 10,000 feet of 8-inch diameter water distribution pipeline. This is located in the northernmost limits of district boundaries.
Ryan, can we take a pause just a moment until we can bring it up on the screen? Is it possible?
Okay. Up here. Minimize that. We lost Zoom.
Don't hit power.
Bring that back up. Go to agenda presentations, or go down here.
Actually, did the webinar stop? I saw something correct.
Let me take control for a second.
Take two.
So the Trace Amigos pipeline, I think, and Ryan, maybe you could do you know the break data on that pipeline currently?
It averages roughly one break a month. I believe now it's 13 breaks over a year, so little more than one a month.
Time to move on.
Timely and topical. Okay.
And with that project, because of the material of the pipe, we can't weld on it even though it's steel, so it's so thin. So we've just been putting temporary repair clamps on it, at least for the last year to year and a half, 5 years. Okay, 5 years. Thank you. So that pipe is basically full of temporary repair clamps because there was one welder, and I don't know if he's retired, that knew how to weld on that pipe, and now there's no welders that know how to weld on that pipe. So basically, it's so thin they burn a hole just heating up the welding rod on that pipe.
It's interesting. Okay. It's all right.
We do get paid by the word though, so that's why those titles are getting longer.
Yes, Trace Amigos is trying to prevent this item.
Trying to hold on. You're not gonna replace me. Don't get rid of me, please.
Okay, now we'll go. All right, so hopefully the board will see it.
Oh,
All right,
great.
there we
Okay.
go.
Thank you.
Ta-da.
Thank you for doing that.
Jonathan.
Control. Okay. Several actions are being presented tonight. Over approximately 10,000 feet of 8-inch water distribution pipeline is included in this project. It is located in the northernmost limits of district boundaries. The Phase 1 water lines consist of thin-wall steel pipelines considered to be at the highest risk of failure. These were installed originally back in the 1950s. The project is also prioritizing the relocation of water lines into public right-of-way. This will remove existing district lines running through customer backyards and throughout Bonsall Farms. As mentioned earlier, the district experiences roughly one line break per month, currently broke again today. The board is familiar with the project, acting during past project milestones dating back to June of 2020, with professional services agreement award to NV5 for design engineering and environmental services in the amount of $318,600. Pipeline replacement is the proper solution as condition assessment and trenchless rehabilitation options are not suitable for the existing host pipe in this project. Amendment number 1 for additional easement acquisition services was authorized to NV5 in October of 2021 in the amount of $21,350. Amendment number 2 for additional survey mapping, easement, and final design services was authorized in August of 2023 in the amount of $44,185. And on April 3rd, 2024, the board adopted the final CEQA initial study mitigated negative declaration, which includes a mitigation monitoring and reporting program. In January, staff publicly advertised a request for proposals to local consultants who were asked to present their experience in construction management and inspection services for waterline replacement projects. And in March, a mandatory pre-proposal meeting and site visit was held with 10 firms in attendance. On March 11th, staff received 3 proposals from Valley CM, Riley CM, and GEI Consultants. The review panel reviewed the submitted proposals and rated each firm based on the criteria set forth in the RFP. The panel determined Valley CM was the most qualified and responsive consultant. Staff received the final version of the scope of work and a fee with a time and materials not to exceed fee of $532,150. Upon request from staff, NV5 provided a proposal in April for amendment number 3 to include engineering services during construction, biological monitoring, archaeological and Native American monitoring services, as required by CEQA for a not to exceed time and materials fee of $244,714. Completion of design phase was achieved as a district tactical plan initiative for fiscal year 23-24. The project bid package was publicly advertised in June. And on July 30th, staff conducted a mandatory pre-bid meeting with 13 general contractors in attendance. District staff received and opened bids on August 29th from 7 prime contractors, with the bid results identified on page 71 of your board packet, with Trico General Engineering as the apparent low bid. A bid protest letter was received from Dominguez General Engineering, or Dominguez, claiming, number 1, Trico General Engineering, or Trico, did not reference the specified 5 years of experience, and 2, had incomplete pages in their bid. Staff and council reviewed the letter and recommended rejecting the Dominguez protest, as staff and council had made an independent evaluation that the low bid submitted by Trico was responsive for the following reasons. Number 1, bidders shall list all jobs successfully completed by the bidder during the last 5 years. Trico listed 4 projects that were completed in the last 5 years. Second, bidders shall demonstrate a minimum of 5 years of practical experience and successful completion of at least 3 projects having work of a comparable type and scope of work as determined by the bidder's experience form. Trico did not list a minimum of 5 years of practical experience. However, the district is satisfied with the experience indicated by Trico and may waive the immaterial deviation. And lastly, Trico's bid forms were complete. Staff and council have reviewed the bids and determined that there were no material irregularities. Staff and council completed the evaluation of qualifications, references, bid forms, the protest letter, and determined Trico was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Staff will provide project management services and inspection oversight services throughout construction. Construction is anticipated to begin in November of this year and be complete by September of 2025. The Tres Amigos project fiscal year 24-25 budget is $8,750,000. The project will be funded entirely through water replacement funds. The fiscal impact is itemized on page 72 of your board packet, including award of construction agreement to Trico, award of PSA to Vallecitos, award of amendment number 3 to NV5, and estimated staff labor and overhead. There's an estimated budget surplus of approximately $1.3 million. The project supports the district's strategic plan, strategic focus area number 1, infrastructure integrity. The project's fiscal year 24-25 tactical plan initiative is to complete 50% substantial construction by June 30th of 2025. And with this, staff recommends the board of directors authorize the general manager to execute the following actions for the Tres Amigos waterline replacement project. First, reject the protest letter from Dominguez. Second, authorize the general manager to execute a construction agreement with Trico in the amount of $5,696,887, subject to the provisions of the contract. Third, authorize the general manager to enter a PSA with Valley Construction Management in the amount of $532,150 for construction management, inspection, and geotechnical engineering services during construction. Lastly, authorize the general manager to execute amendment number 3 with NV5 in the amount of $244,714 for construction phase engineering services, biological monitoring, archaeological, and Native American construction monitoring services. And with that, I can take any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. Are there any public speakers for this agenda item?
None listed, ma'am.
Okay, great, thank you. I have a question. You know, we don't often hear about protest letters. And so I'm wondering if, you know, when someone crafts a protest letter, is it because they have seen, I guess it's all public, right? We have to publicly display why we choose specific vendors over other vendors. And if someone bid on the project, they can see that we have chosen another vendor and they can inspect, you know, whatever the criteria are that the other vendor put forward. Is that how protest letters typically arise? They are able to review what we also reviewed and then chose?
In this instance, Dominguez, as the second low bid, requested the bid documents from Trico. It's public record, so we provided that. They have to request it. They can see that they came in second, but they don't get to see the details of the bid forms.
Okay.
But we can provide that upon request, and then after that review, internally on them, they submitted the protest letter.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. What questions do my colleagues have? Yes.
No questions, I'll move staff's recommendation.
Okay, and it looks like we have 3 motions. Can we bundle them, or do we need to take them one by one?
You can bundle them. I'd suggest you take the protest, that you reject the protest, and then separately, and then award the contracts. But
Okay, all right, then that's what we will do. Thank you for that guidance. So, thank you. Director Elitharp has moved to move staff's recommendation.
Question down there?
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing real quick, just for the benefit, if Dominguez group is watching this, if you come in next time, we would love to ask you personal questions on why you feel you may have been slighted in this matter. And I encourage anyone who files a protest letter to come in to explain themselves, and I would like to hear everyone out. And, without knowing the full story of them being here, I can't do that. So I just encourage people in the future to, if you're going to file a protest, come in here as well so we can hear you out.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor. May I have a second?
Quick question.
Okay.
Do we have experience working with Trico?
We do not. We do not have experience with Trico or Dominguez.
But we check references with other agencies that have used them and no issues.
We did.
Where are they out of? Where's Trico out of?
They're out of Riverside, San Bernardino, and I think Dominguez was out of Riverside as well.
Gotcha. Well, it's a big project. No, it's good for them.
Yeah, we were actually surprised how good the reference checks came in, so we were,
Really?
so we felt confident that this is a good decision for the
Yeah.
district.
No, I just saw the span is from 5.6 to 7.8.
And you can see the difference.
So going,
Yeah.
all right, I just want to make sure they know what they're getting into.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Before we discuss any further, we should have a second. May I have a second? Okay, thank you, Director Hernandez. Okay, now we can continue the discussion. Yes.
Apologies, Madam President, just for clarification, Director Elitharp, was your motion just to do the initial bid protest or move all staff?
It was to bundle them, but I can modify it to take.
Separately.
yeah, I just suggest, take the one item to reject the bid protest and award the construction contract
A separate item.
as a separate item from the 2 professional agreements, so they're not.
That's my motion.
Okay, great, thank you. And for clarity, I will read the motion. The motion is to reject the protest letter and authorize the general manager to execute a construction agreement with Trico in the amount of $5,696,887 as presented. Has been moved by Director Elitharp and seconded by Director Hernandez. Okay, is there any more discussion? Okay, then let's vote. Okay, and the motion passes. Thank you. Now we will take the next 2 motions and bundle them together. I will read them both and then call for a motion for both. The first motion is to authorize the general manager to enter a professional services agreement with Valley Construction Management in the amount of $532,150 for construction management as presented. That is the initial motion. Second motion that we are bundling is to authorize the general manager to execute amendment number 3 within V5 in the amount of $244,714 for construction phase engineering services, biological monitoring, archaeological and Native American construction monitoring services as presented. May I have a motion to bundle those 2 motions together? Or may I have a motion to pass those 2 motions as presented and read? I will make that motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Director Elitharp. Any discussion? Okay,
Before we, I have discussion, just discussion, because after we take the motion, I like the project, I think it's fabulous, it's well beyond years of, so thank you for the effort put in. It looks like there's not a whole lot of road construction going on, there's not a whole lot.
It's It's largely in district easements and some private roadways, and then north of Gopher Canyon, it's on Fairview, which is a public right-of-way, before it gets back into district easement, so a little bit of county roadway.
Does that help with the cost? I mean, it should lower it, I think, because of, we're not tearing a whole bunch up, we're going into natural dirt, correct?
Correct.
Most of the way with, is there access issues?
There is some access issues south of Gopher Canyon on some private access roadways, but the contractor's been made aware of that during the bid phase.
Gotcha. And again, just clarification question so I can do a proper vote. And then
That's
replace an 8 with an 8, is that typical? I mean, is there a reason you don't want to like increase the size or anything like that?
We're actually replacing 6 and 8 with 8.
6 and 8 with
8's
8.
our standard minimum for water.
Is that pretty standard? 8?
Yeah.
Even in, because there's a lot of, is there a lot of larger valves out there with the agricultural clients or customers?
Some larger meters, there's a
larger
couple
meters
2-inch
don't-
meters out
okay.
there, some agricultural meters on Bonsall Farms. And then besides that, it's just a lot of residential meters.
So no need to go bigger than 8, looking 20 years down the road or anything like that for if there's
Correct.
development or anything like that going on?
Yep.
There's no development in that area that's proposed in our master plan, and there's no further growth. It's kind of a built-out area, and it's at the very top corner, so there's no real extension beyond that, because above us, I believe, is Rainbow Water District, so it's at the edge of our district.
Okay. So I'm sure, I know I hate, I don't like to ask questions because I'm sure you guys have looked it over, but just for myself, I guess, clarification, 8, replacing the 6 and 8 with an 8,
Correct.
20, 30 years down the road, it's going to serve the purpose down the road, everything's good.
50-year design life. One interesting fact about the project, we have a cross tie with Vista Irrigation District at Fairview, and that'll be replaced and brought back into service.
Gotcha. No, thank you. Good work on the project, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion before we vote? Okay, then let's vote. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your votes. Okay. Moving on to reports. General Manager Gumpel, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Madam President. So I have a few items tonight. First and most importantly, I'd like to formally introduce Kim Johnson and also formally reintroduce Jennifer Cerna, both here. Jennifer is now here full-time and taking over Ann's role, so as basically one of the board secretary's assistants. And then Kim's here as the senior, taking over Anthony's role, and she's with us part-time for a limited term. I'm hoping for the next 3 to 6 months or so while we fill Anthony's position and also get them trained. So when the board communicates, please copy both of them. Jennifer will be here in the office most days, and Kim will be remote, but she will also be in the office monthly, and will probably be at the second board meeting a month on average. So, but welcome to the team, and I'm really personally happy that they've both joined the teams. Already made a huge difference and impact, and relieved my stress level at several levels. So
Great.
thank you so much. The other thing I wanted to mention here is we did have a large main break today that was not a Tres Amigos line, unfortunately, off of Red Wing, right off of Rancho Santa Fe Road. It was a main transmission line. When it first went off, it took the whole community out along Red Wing and all the way into La Costa Greens, portions of La Costa Oaks and Alga, and then all the way into La Costa Meadows Elementary. The water was turned on to most of the community within the first hour or two, and then I believe, and we're still working on it, we've isolated the main break where nobody will be out of water. We've contacted Cass Construction for emergency services because it's a larger line. They're mobilizing, and then we'll be working on repairs. So we'll get information out to the board. But the good news is staff responded to it, did the initial shutdown, which did affect a lot of customers, and then was able to isolate the break, bring customers back online fairly quickly. And we have a fairly large hole in the road at this point. I joked around with Ed. I said, is it big enough to swallow cars? He said, how many cars? So,
Okay.
so that repair will be ongoing, and we'll give an update to the board. It'll come back to the board at some point. It's under the general manager's authority to move forward with it. But then once we have the numbers of the cost repairs, we'll bring it back with a report. So,
Real quick on that, if if you don't mind, I'd just like to commend you all, your group especially, for acting fast on that. I had got a notification from La Costa Meadows Elementary that, they're moving forward without water, and then within, I think, a 20-minute span, I got another notification that they were back online. So really appreciate all the hard work that you all put in.
Thank you. So our ops guys, they know what they're doing when they get out there. So unfortunately, they have some experience with main breaks. So a couple of things coming up. We'll be scheduling ad hoc committee for the hillside. So the 60-day period is over, and then the 90-day period for the negotiations start. So we'll be scheduling an ad hoc committee. I'll be having either Kim or Jennifer contact the ad hoc members to get that scheduled here in the near future, in the next couple of weeks or so. The finance department has started the audit process, so the first finance committee regarding audit is probably scheduled for November, or probably early November is what we're slating right now. Water Academy. So first, before the Water Academy, Chris's team is going to be putting out its notification to the board. So the fall is a very busy time for public information. There's a lot of events, fire station events, fall festival. So all those events will be put into kind of a one email and sent out to the entirety of the board for the board to know where both our staff is and if the board has opportunity where they want to show up. The other portion that I want to highlight is our Water Academy. Right now is scheduled for October 17th. Due to construction at Meadowlark, we are not going to get a bus and go out to Meadowlark or Twin Oaks. Instead, we're doing more of an open house style with several other groups being actively involved, including construction, collections, and other groups. So we'll have more stations here, have a little longer lunch period. The board will be invited to that to speak as well. So once we get a schedule down, we'll send out further information to the board on the schedule events for the Water Academy, and we encourage board members to attend and say hi to the public that attends. The good news with that is right now I think we have, although it always changes, but we have over 60 people who are interested in coming.
Great.
However, we are going to reach out to them to let them know there's going to be no bus tour this year to reach the site, so that may or may not affect that attendance. So we do want to manage the expectations of the customers that show up. Let's see, I believe. Last thing. Ed and I are in the process of scheduling a meeting with staff at the regional board, State Water Control Board, for Lake San Marcos. So we've made contact. We're going to meet. We're going to talk about the order, go over kind of their thoughts, and once I've had that meeting with them, I'll come back in a future general manager's report and give the board an update. So. Just again, to manage expectations, I don't expect a fruitful outcome of it, but at least it'll give it a try. So that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, General Manager. Moving on to District Legal Counsel, Councilor Gilpin.
Thank you. Just a couple of brief items. I'm going to be working with GM Gumpel to get his evaluation scheduled. We'd like to get that on board and completed prior to the November elections. So we'll be shooting for closed sessions in October. The second item is the 24 legislative session closed up in Sacramento on August 31st. There are roughly 9 bills that were passed by the legislature that are sitting on the governor's desk relative to water and sewer. He has until the end of the month to veto them or sign them or do a pocket veto if they're not signed or acted upon. Really only 2 of them probably touch on us at all, which are 218 bills. One is AB 2257 and the other is AB 1827. AB 2257 reestablishes an administrative exhaustion provision relative to anyone who wants to challenge our rates. So we're keeping an eye on that, and we'll keep you updated. I guess the other thing of interest that you may have seen is it's hard to imagine. It's been 10 years since Jerry Brown signed SGMA into effect. And as you know, SGMA is the Groundwater Management Act. There were great expectations relative to local agencies being able to collaborate and manage their groundwater basins in general, it's been fairly effective. There are regions that are challenging, that are critically overdrafted, which you'll see a number of articles, particularly in the Central Valley. There was a ruling this week where the King County Court enjoined the penalties that were being imposed on ag pumpers up there for declaring basically what was done as underground regulations on lack of transparency by the state board. So I think that although it doesn't affect us directly, if you're in the water world, those will continue to be interesting developments to watch relative to the groundwater basin. I think it's like 40% of water in California that is used is coming out of a groundwater basin. So it's a big chunk of H2O. So.
Okay, thank you. San Diego County Water Authority.
Yeah, the Water Authority's regular September board meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. I'll be attending that, but otherwise, no report.
Okay, thank you. Encino Wastewater Authority.
Yes, we had our meeting this morning. The big item on the meeting was the approval of the administrative and warehouse HVAC and electronic control equipment. They had some slides of the HVAC equipment, which is big equipment, 40, 50 tons of equipment. And the air handler, because it's right on the coast, and the intake valve was right next to one of our older controls. So that corrosive environment just ate the thing right up. I just couldn't believe it. It just was hanging there. So they had to end, because this thing is so big, they put in the equipment initially, and then they built the building around it. So in order to replace it, they had to cut it all apart, and then they had to manufacture a new system in pieces so they could bring it in and reestablish it. So got that done, got it approved, so that was the big item.
Okay, excellent. Standing committees. Okay, I will talk about the P3 committee. The P3 committee met on September 9th. We typically meet on the first Monday of the month, but it was Labor Day, so we boosted, we moved the meeting until September 9th. We had 4 items up for discussion. First was the employee handbook, which has required a lot of work by staff, and I want to commend staff for working on that, putting it together. It is coming together. In the past, I have raised the issue of whether or not what is our process about ensuring that we are applying for grants. When us directors go to conferences, we always hear about all of the money that's out there and available, and it's not been clear to me how we are trying to procure that money, but that was explained in the P3 committee, and I am very appreciative. It's no longer a black box to me, and we have even reached out to an external vendor to elicit their thoughts on it as well. But it sounds to me like we do our due diligence every single time we have a project coming forward, and that's great to hear. The Vallecitos Water District and San Marcos Fire Department joint letter is still moving forward. We are waiting for the approval, and again, that is the letter that we are hoping will be able to go out to homeowners and potentially help them with their homeowners insurance, understanding that our region has the potential to be safer now that we have implemented our helipod. So I can't wait for news about that, and I hope that it is something that folks can use. And finally, we are getting a jump on the 2025 scholarships. And this is, I talk about the scholarship every time I go anywhere, and it sounds to me like we're getting a jump on the outreach materials for that. And I look forward to getting some really good applicants this year. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Just building on the grant portion, as I think we came out of that meeting agreeing that there will be a similar update for the board in the future, just kind of unveiling all of that, and that when grants are in process, that the board should be updated about that as well.
Yes, thank you for that.
Question?
Yes.
The scholarship program, when do you think that's going to be sent out?
I believe it's going on the website February, March timeframe. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. So it goes out basically end of winter, early spring. It's timed in with the school schedules and timed in with a few other items. Chris, if he was here, would know more about it, but basically we have a certain time that works out, working with both Palomar and Cal State San Marcos. That seems to be the ideal timing.
Okay?
Okay. Any other standing committees? Okay, directors' reports on meetings, conferences, or seminars attended. Yes.
Thank you. I attended the Water Reuse Conference in Anaheim this past week. It was a great conference. They opened up that, there's a lot of funding available for DPR, speaking of grants that we should start looking into, and they said not specifically for the act of it, but rather the experimentation of it too. So I think that Meadowlark could be eligible for some of that. The keynote speaker was a doctor from a university, Eric Hoek, and he had some pretty enlightening ideas for the future of mining the minerals within wastewater and turning it into usable resources that could be sold, in his theory, for billions of dollars. So it could be a potential revenue for Meadowlark in the future if his technology that he's working on ends up panning out. And I think that was kind of worthy thing of bringing up here, in that we may be sitting on future revenue that may offset our customers' rates. The breakout sessions were amazing as well. A couple of cool things that were brought up was Rob Machado, a very famous surfer, has a great wastewater reuse emphasis for his charity work, and people have considered partnering up with him, and I encouraged that to continue being explored. And then Pure Water SD had a great presentation about all the awesome work that they're doing, and then they had this video of sinking the pipeline in one of the reservoirs, and it was just a really cool thing to watch them float this pipeline and then sink it, and then the divers adjust it through soldering and all of that cool work. And we were personally encouraged by the committee to apply for more reuse awards, and I think this comes into play with Meadowlark's upgrades here. So I pass that along to staff to do in the future. I think it's an appropriate time to do it, and they said specifically they're looking for people, members to highlight. So other than that, of course, they harp on the huge rebates available for on-site programs to retrofit recycled water for HOAs and businesses, and I think Chris does a great job of conveying that to our customers and HOA in our community. So great conference overall.
Okay, other, yes?
Yes, I also attended the water reuse, and they had a program on desal versus DPR. And they went through a list, reliability, one versus the other, desal, more reliable, environmentally, DPR is better, acceptance, desal better, energy consumption, DPR is way better, brine, DPR is way better than that. Cost, DPR is way less. And the production, I was quite surprised. You take 20 million gallons a day of desal and you pull out the brine, you end up with 10 million gallons a day of product. On DPR, 20 million, 2 million of DPR, so 18 million of product. It's interesting that I don't think we had this information when we made the decision about desal, because believe me, if I would have had this information, I don't think I'd have voted for the desal. So that was the desal. The other one I went to CSDA. They had a great presentation on to live gas-free. They talked about the automobiles that are going to be required for 8,000 pounds or more, 2027, at least 10% of the fleet, and by 2030, at least 50% of the fleet. Then I ran into Kim Thorner, and Kim said, all you need to do is get your fire departments, Escondido, Vista, and San Marcos, to write you a letter and explain to the agencies that the water district is an essential part of their fire equipment. And so we should be exempt from any of that. So if you can follow up on that with Kim, she'll tell you what the ropes are, and let you, maybe we can get away from that silliness. And that was my 2 reports.
Thank you. For the benefit of the public, what is DPR?
Direct potable reuse.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving on to, or any other, no, okay. Moving on to other business. Director's comments, future agenda items. Director's comments, future, yes.
I have one. The Boys and Girls Club auction is coming up on the 5th of October. Our next meeting is the 9th. I didn't realize it was that quick. But in the past, we have authorized, not per diem, but purchased tickets and/or a table. And I think in the past, when we've purchased a table, we've been short in attendance. So I would hope, and I don't quite know how to do this because it's not on the agenda, I'm planning to attend, and I hope I can get reimbursed.
Yeah, Director Hernandez, we can't do anything at this meeting because it's not
No.
on the agenda. But the only thing you can do is request it as a reimbursement to be considered next meeting. However, if it isn't the pleasure of the board to do that, then you're taking the risk of not getting reimbursed.
Right, I understand that. Okay,
So is that your request?
yes. And it's October 5th, 5 PM is the opening of the silent auction, and it moves on there to dinner and then the live auction. You know, we've been supporting it for the whole 14 years that I've been on the board, and so I hope we can continue that support.
And I will second that so that it goes on an agenda.
All right, so we'll go ahead and add that to the next agenda for considering of reimbursement for
Thank
board
you.
members who attend.
All right.
Okay, great. Any other comments? I have a few, if no one else. Okay. A couple of comments. First, thank you again to the staff today for showing us the Coronado Hills tank.
We
That
forgot the
was
tank.
wonderful. That was fantastic. And, you know, anytime there's opportunity, at least speaking for myself, to go into the field. And it's not just because I like to wear a hard hat. I genuinely enjoy seeing that. So please keep those invitations coming, and great work managing that project. And secondly, congratulations to Jennifer and Kim. Thank you for being here. Your presence is greatly appreciated. I also want to compliment staff for getting the water back online so quickly from the main break today. Finally, I have a statement to read, and it is I'm making the statement as a personal comment during my commentary period, and I am not speaking for the board, I am speaking for myself. So, it's a few minutes long, so I know Craig's already packed up, but we'll be here for a couple more minutes. Recently, it has come to light that a San Marcos company working for a developer accessed the Vallecitos Water District sewer system and installed equipment without following proper procedure. Per the cease and desist letter Vallecitos issued to the offending parties, this action, quote, puts the district's sewer infrastructure at risk, end quote. Further, quote, sewer meters can be set up incorrectly and report false readings, or worse, cause structural damage to the attachment site or further downstream in the sewer system, end quote. I want to assure Vallecitos customers, because I have been assured by our excellent Vallecitos staff, that the unauthorized equipment has been removed and there are no health and safety risks to our customers. As a point of background for the public, Vallecitos Water District frequently interacts with developers, and the district enjoys a stable and respectful relationship with most developers working in San Marcos. Vallecitos works hand in hand with most developers to expand access to water and sewer as needed as the city grows. It is highly irregular that an entity would physically access our infrastructure without following proper procedure. In fact, we have an ordinance that prohibits it because of the health and safety risks that unauthorized access can pose. I want to commend staff, General Manager Gumpel and District Engineer Hubbard, and our legal counsel, BB&K, for working together to uncover this unauthorized access and to craft a strong message in the cease and desist letter. That letter makes it clear that Vallecitos will not tolerate unauthorized access to our infrastructure and that this is not how we do business at Vallecitos. The public deserves this transparency. The public also deserves to know that members of this body were meeting with the offending parties behind closed doors while the unauthorized access to our sewer system was taking place. Recently, I learned through internal communications that a meeting was held in June, and in attendance were Directors Jim Hernandez, Director Eric Grosset, and former Vallecitos Water District Board member, now sitting San Marcos City Council member Mike Sanella, with the offending parties addressed in the cease and desist letter. Vallecitos Water District General Manager and District Engineer also attended this meeting, quote, because a board member or members asked them to, and learned of the purpose of the meeting after they arrived. The meeting occurred outside of the appropriate Vallecitos Standing Committee, the Land Use and Developers Relations Committee. It was not noticed, there were no minutes, there was not an agenda made available. The meeting did not include the director in whose division the proposed development will be built. And speaking for myself, I only learned about the situation when the cease and desist letter was issued approximately 6 weeks after the meeting. I want to pause a moment and express my gratitude to Vallecitos District staff for their resiliency in the face of the pressure they experienced during this meeting. I also want to acknowledge staff's diligence and follow-up investigation that determined the Vallecitos Water District sewer was accessed without authorization by the company and/or their representatives. It is highly disconcerting to me to learn that sitting members of this board and a sitting city council member are meeting with developers behind closed doors, and those developers are then found to be accessing our infrastructure without following proper procedure. The Vallecitos Water District Board does not have a mechanism to ascertain what transpired leading up to that discovery of the closed-door meeting and unauthorized access to sewer infrastructure. If there have been other closed-door meetings that are similar, what the directors in attendance knew and when about the developer accessing our sewer infrastructure, and how often closed-door meetings like this occur. Public agencies and board members who govern them, such as the 5 of us who sit before you, face a higher standard of ethics and scrutiny in operations and actions. We, as Vallecitos directors on the board, are stewards not only of public funds, but also public trust and public safety. Compared to national government, where public trust is at historic lows, people trust local government. We on the dais are your neighbors, and we are from your community. So to ensure greater transparency, I have reached out to the California Special Districts Association in an attempt to help our board craft policy or practice that sends an equally strong message to current and future board members that this is not how Vallecitos Board Director governs, it is not how we operate, it is not how we do business. We will not put one customer group above another, and we are not for sale. And we are adjourned. Thank you.